I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. We've got a couple very special guests with us today. Garrett Long, VP of Content at MeatEater.
Yeah.
That's like a big job.
Yeah.
So are you like Ryan Callaghan, who's also on the podcast with us? Are you like his boss?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Whoa.
But he's a VP of content, and we produce so much content that all he has to do is listen to podcasts and watch TV.
My job is to watch movies.
Yeah. That's a cool job.
Yeah.
Cal, what's your job?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm excited to hear this.
Like, when's the last time you had a job description updated?
Oh, man. I had to fill out a NOAA permit because we were going to go film marine mammals.
Oh, wow.
And they literally needed a resume. And my producer, Jason Rurig, who's awesome, was extremely frustrated with me because I was like, whoa, I've never filled out a resume. And I'm like Jason,
ever?
Well, I don't think you fill out a resume. You kind of make one.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Cal. Cal
like,
doesn't know this.
I'm 40 years old. There's some things that I just probably am not going to get good at. And so he was a lot of help with that, yes.
So what do you do at MeatEater now, Cal?
Okay, so, I'll tell you, like Friday, I'm going to go out and check out a chunk of ground here in Montana that's got excellent hunting and fishing in a spot where there's not a lot of access right now. And I'm working with some conservation partners to see how we can get that funded and turned into a public access site. It would be like a future state wildlife management area. So I'm super excited about that. And that is one thing I get to say I do. Cool. So I'll go there. I'll create a little media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Content.
So Garrett knows I'm working.
Okay.
And then...
So you do cool things, film yourself, and then that works.
Well, this will be filming. Yeah, like what is there, right? Like why it's a good spot, and just kind of be able to just kind of walk people through it a lot easier, and then talk with some of the other partners involved, timelines, how we can help get this project over the finish line, because it's pretty close, but it just needs a lot more cash, and then get through that bureaucratic red tape, and then we just hosted a bunch of folks for some other conservation stuff, which Weatherby was a part of, and that was awesome. And I have my hands in the conservation things, and produce a podcast, and then produce video content on the YouTube, the Cal in the Field, which is kind of the brother to, or sister, or whatever you want to call it, to Cal's Week in Review, the podcast, where you kind of get a deeper dive, a visual dive on conservation topics that we explore in the podcast. And then, and today, down here at Sheridan, Wyoming, Weatherby headquarters.
So we had a pretty fun day today. Full day. Started pretty early this morning. Factory tour. And then we sat down, and we created a thing. Mm-hmm. Collaboratively together made a new rifle.
Very fun day.
Yeah.
I would say.
Awesome day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did some shooting at the range, shotguns, rifles. Yeah. Tour.
Who won
podcast.
the shotgun deal?
I think Adam was shooting real well.
No.
I thought.
He started strong, but there was a point when he switched to the 20 gauge that he kind of tapered off.
I for some reason, the other day I shot great with that 20, and didn't have
the wind. It was the wind. Were you holding for wind?
No, that's the problem. Didn't have anybody spotting for me.
Right,
So,
right.
No, it was a super fun day. We've been partners with you guys with MeatEater. This is probably our 5th year?
At least 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
around there.
Yeah. So, which has been super cool, partner with you guys. You guys have grown a ton. Everybody used to think, well, it's a TV show. Now, obviously, you not only produce content but product as well. But we've been partners with you guys, and it's been really cool. And Cal, we've got to do some hunting together, and just it's a friendship and a cool relationship. And being up here in Sheridan, and you guys in Bozeman. I mean, my daughter goes to college up there. Cal, you got to hunt with my daughter and me and the crew once, so it's cool to just have just right across the state line here, to have partners that they really, I don't know, I think we understand what each other do. And just like last week we had this conservation event, we just kind of pull together for kind of the same cause, and it's cool. And then once in a while we can collaborate, come together, and make some cool products together. That's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, so a few months ago, we basically launched our new Model 307, first new action for Weatherby in like 51 plus years since the Vanguard. And the response to that has been really good. And we know with you guys, we did the MeatEater Vanguard that went over very well. It was like our #1 Vanguard model, like all the years that we had it in the line. And Garrett, when we were talking about this new Model 307, like your eyes kind of lit up. Like I feel like you're the customer for this gun, because you're not just VP of content at MeatEater. You're an avid shooter.
Yeah, man. I like to shoot and tinker, and I mean, to say it's a hobby would be like an understatement, I think, if you ask my wife at this point. So
you compete.
Yeah, I do a little competing as well, man.
You're not competing for your like a shooting paycheck. It's your recreation, but it's the thing that you like to do.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Right.
Yeah. That's very
No
true.
cash money at this point.
No,
You're in the red.
Oh yeah, no. Well,
Yeah,
none of the competitions I do pay out cash. Anyways, it's a lot of gear based. So like they have like a gear table that you walk afterwards, which is crazy. The first NRL hunter I did, I remember walking the table. I'm gonna pat my own back here, but I won that competition. I didn't know it at that time. It was the first one I did, and I walked the prize table, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 5 rifles up here on the prize table. I wish I would have taken it seriously. And then a little while later, they're like, oh yeah, you won. So you're the first one to walk up there. Pick out anything you want.
Anything you want off the table.
It was nuts, man.
That's awesome.
And then that's when it started, right? Like the
An
obsession.
hour
really
later,
kicked off.
Garrett was done like running bolts and pulling triggers and
He's
like,
just
okay.
fondling the gun.
Everybody's like, when's my turn?
I think this is the best one.
Yeah, but you're right, man. As soon as you guys mentioned this one, I was excited. I think taking a rifle and then truly making it your own is a wave of the future that a lot of people are looking to do, and Action Footprint has a lot to do with that and different components. And you guys built a platform that I think you can get into, and one out of the box, it's awesome. It's like you're good to go, but there's a component to it that you can take it from there and really build off of like a 700 footprint.
Yep.
And compete, hunt, recreate, all the things.
That's the whole ethos of it. So
Oh yeah, well, I mean, out of the box, not even out of the box. We had 5 different barrels and 5 different configurations of stocks, and we were mixing and matching, and then finally screwed one together and zeroed it in and went out and shot out to 1,000 yards with it the same day.
yeah, unless 10-ish shots in, you're
Just-
hitting at 1,000 yards.
Just to let everybody know, we took a gun that's on the table, podcast table here, out to the range, and the first shot at 1,000 yards just about hit the bullseye. So with probably 15 miles an hour wind, with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
We did walk it out to 1,000,
We did.
so we were able to read the wind a little better.
Yep,
and make a
absolutely. I
call,
think we
but-
did 2, 4, 7,
Seven.
9, and 1,000, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we walked out less than a box of ammo. We were on at
crazy.
1,000. It was pretty cool. And I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan Callaghan is a good shot, ladies and gentlemen.
Let it be written.
Not a pro though, right? I mean, I don't.
You're not making cash money
I'm
off
a
of your shooting.
recreational shooter.
Yeah, you did.
So
all
it
right.
was sweet.
And your first group out of this gun here that we're going to chat about, the MeatEater Special on the 307, the first group shot was 3/4 inch, just breaking her in. So wasn't bad with factory ammo. Just
Yeah. I don't think you zeroed your turret there, Cal.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be a few revolutions
Yeah,
off.
it's only like
It's gonna be like
lot.
36 minutes.
36 minutes.
Yeah.
At 1,000.
A little high.
So if people
Yeah.
if people are
Yeah.
just listening only to this podcast, they can't see this gun. Ryan, why don't you talk a little bit about like the colors, the why we went with what we went with, and give us a little rundown.
Okay, so one thing that we had not talked about all day, but is a huge bonus for a guy like me that would go buy a rifle off the shelf, is you basically just need a scope and rings and ammo and you're ready to go. So you're including a kind of a custom Picatinny rail on here and the magazine. You have a adjustable trigger. You have an adjustable
Trigger Tech trigger.
Tech trigger,
Yep.
an adjustable cheek piece, shims for the buttstock, and then you have two swivel points up front, so you can put a Picatinny rail up on your forend, and then a muzzle brake. So it's already in that zone of you can kind of customize this. At a minimum, you can tinker with it to fit your face, right? Have that same cheek weld and length of pole for the trigger. So you have a big step up in your base platform.
It's a big difference from the original MeatEater rifle that it was just what it was. The stock was what it was. Yep. So now we got the full adjustability. Awesome.
Yeah, super awesome. For me, it's a value proposition, and it's right there in that like custom gun world, right? Yep. So if you want to go to new heights beyond that, you're set up to do that. But out of the box, you're going to look at this thing and it's a business rifle. You're going to look at it and be like, oh yeah, that thing means business. You're going to hit the range with that type of confidence, and confidence kills.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So, kind of working man's rifle, right? Everything's Cerakoted. You're not going to be having to handle this thing with like you're worried about your natural skin oils rubbing
no
off
white
on
gloves
them.
are necessary.
Yes, exactly. But it's a precision rifle too. Like, I mean, it's, again, the way I think, I'm not sure what a lot of folks would want beyond this. And man, you can just configure it to whatever shooter. Like if this is going to be a general rifle that's hanging out at the ranch, it's very much worth having, because it's going to be a tack driver, and whoever comes in and sits behind it, you can dial in for them. It's just, I can go on and on about it. It's great. It's great. So
that's awesome. And then I think, we worked on the performance. Took us a couple years to kind of try to get all this for, what it was here in this package. Obviously, on this one, we are including that, we call it the J rail. It's a Picatinny rail that we actually developed with a couple of the tabs or rails off the back, and allows you to maybe get your scope a little bit lower. So that's going to be included with this rifle as well. So we're trying to really have it be all that you would need to get out there and do the things you need to do with it. And then I think, from there, I think we rely on you guys to know from an aesthetic standpoint, we need function and fashion. And so many things have gone that way. Firearms are no exemption, right? People are doing with their trucks or anything else, and you want it to look cool and your colors look cool and have all the accessories. But, you guys, and in clothing and apparel and merch and so many different things, kind of know those things a little bit. So we really came into it going, okay, you guys kind of help us, give us some direction so we can have this partnership. We'll make it shoot, but you guys better help it make it look good.
Mm-hmm. And it looks good, man.
I think it does.
Yeah, it does. It's on that spectrum of if you were to go get your own stock and dip it yourself, or have somebody else dip it, like what would you do? When you're on the competition series, what do you see out there? And it's like it's already on that spectrum, right, of the look that you would look for out there.
This stock is hand painted here in Sheridan, and in fact, while we were chatting, we were like, "Hey, what if we had this color scheme?"
We went to
And
lunch.
We went to lunch and we came back and we had that color scheme.
Oh man, it's like we were talking about earlier, the type of day that you just love to have in this industry. When we're like, well, what if we did this color, and then this different bolt, and then that sponge paint job? Like, it was awesome, man.
Oh, it's the day that everybody really wants people in the hunting industry to have all the time, right? They're like, oh, I bet you guys do this.
All day, every day.
Right. And today we had that day.
Yeah,
It was
We
awesome.
did. We sat around the conference room table today and had pieces of guns laying throughout, and we'd pre-done a lot of painting, but we not only did the stock, but we did a bolt shroud and a bolt knob and kind of taking things, and we'd go do something else and come back. So the team here was doing Cerakoting and kind of all that. I think, the colors are ones that you guys have done really well with. A lot of the kind of color palette stuff you see across your brands a little bit, and a lot of those kind of tans and browns and some pretty neat stuff. And I personally love kind of think what we all landed on, and so maybe we can kind of talk about the color scheme and what's different about it. For those that can't see it on the table.
Okay.
Those that are listening on the podcast.
Describe it in perfect picture
Yes.
detail.
Right. Do you know that tone of brown?
I would say, like, if you're familiar with the First Light line of camouflage patterns, this would be very firmly like in that fusion color palette. It's a little more open, and I think it is. Like, if you're a First Light fan, you're going to know this. If you're not, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, that is a great break up camouflage pattern. And yeah, it's classy looking. The way the Cerakote matches up with the color palette of the stock itself.
It's a Patriot brown Cerakote. It's kind of a flat brown.
Which
So
is just an awesome color.
And what we ended up doing was we have the Patriot Brown Cerakote on the barrel and the receiver. We have a black spiral fluted bolt, but we took the bolt shroud or bolt sleeve, however you call it, and the bolt knob and did that in Patriot Brown. So there's a black mix. So you have the accents from the magazine and your recoil pad and adjustability on your comb, and then your bolt. So you have these black accents throughout it while keeping that Patriot Brown and black there. And then on the stock, we put a splash of green in there as well on, kind of a custom paint pattern. So you have kind of this tan base with the brown and the green on the stock. And I think, like Cal said, you could lean it up against something in the field, and you better mark it with your pin so you know where it's at.
I agree, which I personally really like, right? I mean, it's form and function and fashion. And fashion's fine by me as long as it's got the function. And this does. So
There's a lot of contrast there too, which I think we always look for in the field, like that breakup. Now, I'll be honest, I've never had an animal run away from me and thought like, oh, if my gun had more camouflage. Right, but Cal made a good point when we were going through this color scheme. We look for straight lines out there, right? That's how we find things. And when you have a straight line on your back, bouncing up and down, going through the woods, like you'd imagine that would be an indicator to whatever you're chasing. So the fact that we do have this contrast, that I think because of the green and the different tones of browns will work in a lot of different environments.
it's not going to hurt you.
It's less of a straight line.
No.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's great. It's great. No, I was coming in a little bit cold to the project, meaning that I'd been looped in on the 307 project, but I hadn't physically been seeing anything. And so it was just a perfect crash course, right? Get to see everything on the factory floor, get to see literally stock barrels being turned, get to see the stocks, get to see the triggers being tested, get to see the bolts being turned, get to see the Cerakote process, and all of the craftspeople on the floor coming together to make this item is amazing, right? It's like instant buy-in. I'm like, oh, yeah, and then go out and shoot with it and be like, oh, this is a very effective tool. Better than anything I was exposed to as a kid, you know. I mean, I'm just turning into an old man. All these kids are so spoiled these days, right? It's like you jump into something like this out of the gate and you're so far ahead of where I started.
I think it's cool when you talk about being on the factory floor. You know, we had some people in town a couple weeks ago, and after they got a tour and you see a rifle like this, it's kind of that how it's made thing where sometimes people just take it for granted. We go buy something. We're like, oh, that's cool. They made things.
Just shows up at the store that way.
But I mean, probably the amount of hands that would be on this 307 MeatEater rifle when you're talking stock painters, Cerakoters, but preppers, people that are prepping it for paint and bead blasting and all those different things. When you're talking about machining and turning down, you know, the barrels, when you're talking about all the assembly, I mean, that bolt right there, it's got a firing pin and, you know, an ejector, an extractor, all those things are hand put in there. You start to go through all of this, and there are a lot of hands here in Sheridan, Wyoming that touch this product before it gets into that box. And you saw, I mean, probably 20 people at least that would, 30.
I was going to say 50.
Yeah,
By the
probably
time, I mean,
is. If you go
through every department that we have set up out there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool seeing the people
is.
behind it.
Yeah.
Like I was paying attention to the T-shirts down there because they're the same ones that I'd wear, right? and it's just like, oh yeah, these are like my people that are down here building these guns, and then we get to go play with them.
Yeah.
But it definitely there's more weight behind it because of that.
And there's a lot of perfectionists down there. I mean, when you talk about, you know, people, because we're almost an 80-year-old brand, and when my grandpa set it up, this fit and finish and quality craftsmanship, it's like before I was born, that reputation was there, and my job is to not screw that up, right? And everybody here knows and feels that weight of responsibility that no matter what they're doing on that factory floor, that, like, yeah, I'm doing a big part of this process. It's going to end up out there in the hands of somebody, and it's going to bear the Weatherby name, and it better be worthy of that name, you know. And it's kind of cool. Speaking of names, we do have the MeatEater name also that's back on the cheek piece, which is kind of cool, just like we had our MeatEater Vanguard. So kind of blended together the two brands, which I think is kind of fun too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are great third-party validators because we love to go out and shoot stuff and then eventually take things into the field, and but only if they prove themselves on the range, right? And this is one of those pieces. I mean, Again, like going back to all the guide camps I was in as a kid, guiding and stuff, like, man, you see some strange stuff come into camp. You know, it's like, oh, that's my elk rifle. Oh, that's my deer rifle. And something like this, you'd be like, oh, that person's serious.
Yeah. And I'd say like what we did today too, walking it out to 1,000. Man, shooting enough, there's nothing that annoys me more than hearing people say that they hit at 1,000, and that's their max range, and it's after they shot at it 8 or 10 times, and they kind of got their wind open and finally hit on steel. What I liked about this gun is we were walking it out that way, is it was consistently tracking, meaning we didn't shoot it at 300 and kind of have our wind open, then go to 400, and then it changes, and there wasn't any variables other than what we were putting into the calculator, right? And it just tracked all the way out there. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that Cal's max range is 1,000 yards, but he did it today pretty easily.
Yeah, he did it today. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you, Cal, when you're thinking about this fall? You shot it today. You gaining some confidence with it. Would you take this rifle, or in this caliber, different, you know, but this model in the field this fall? You're going to be, what do you think you're going to be hunting with it this year?
I mean, you could, we also talked a lot about caliber offerings in this thing.
Up on the whiteboard in the conference room right now.
Yeah. I mean, you could do anything. I mean, literally
what about you this fall? What do you
so.
think you'll take it on?
Oh, elk, deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, antelope too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great, in this particular configuration, this would be a phenomenal antelope gun, especially for planning for Wyoming winds, Nevada winds, Montana, eastern Montana winds. This, out of the box setup would be a absolute killer plains rifle.
Yeah.
I mean, you get behind this thing, and that's the other, like, we were shooting out of a Connex box that you guys have reconfigured, and it's very comfortable in there. But I'll tell you, with no exaggeration, and certainly not tooting my own horn at all, I was not taking the level of setup that I normally would at the range as seriously today. I was like, oh yeah, this feels pretty good. Not like ultra rock solid, but the way that the stock sits in there, it certainly worked out. I mean, did we start at 200?
Started at 2. That's our first steel.
So we did 2, 3, 4,
7, 9,
7,
1,000.
9, 1,000.
7, 9, 1,000.
Actually, you skipped 3. You just went 2,
Oh, yeah.
4.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Garrett said that. He's like, 3 just sounds boring.
It's just like, yeah. You know,
That's
he
right.
he hits so center mass on 2. It's like, what's the point?
And
Let's just move.
I thought it was kind of neat that you called your shot on all of them except for the 9 and 1,000, just because you couldn't see with the magnification of the scope. But you're like, yeah, got it right there. And nobody had to really tell you where you hit. The recoil's not bad. I mean, it's a 6.5 Creedmoor, but
Well, the nice thing was, right, it's like, again, it's a confidence thing, and I wasn't pulling the trigger being like, yeah, maybe. Right, I just wasn't. I was like, this is going to be right there.
they were all, they pretty much all were. We had, when we jumped from 4 to 9, the wind, we had to figure out the wind because it was whipping. But once we figured the wind out, game on.
Yeah.
It was pushing up there on that hill.
It was.
We started with like a 12 mile an hour, and I think
Yeah.
it was like 16, 17 by the time we got up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's stiff, man.
Yeah,
It is.
13
It's
MOA.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your last shot, you were holding
Oh,
130,
130
inches off target.
That's a lot of. It's
more than 10 feet.
More than 10 feet, if you math good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mentally, in the scope, you got to kind of shake your eyeballs a couple of times and be like,
Yeah.
you know, because your crosshairs are way to
Feels
the
wrong.
right.
Feels wrong.
You got to zone in on that hash mark. So, no, I mean, no lie. I mean, it feels good back there. Those proving rounds to walk it out obviously builds confidence. And there's like a herd of antelope laying down on the hillside over there, you know, and it's not like I'm going to spray and pray, so to speak, right? I'm like, I know where this is going. It's at least going to be very close to the ballpark. And yeah, it was.
I'll say.
And when you talk about squeezing the trigger, you saw today, our team setting the triggers, right? They had the 3 pound, they had the 3.5, and kind of saw that. And obviously, you were kind of asking questions when you're out there. How'd the trigger feel out there? Was it cool seeing that? It's like, hey, I just saw the guy who set these triggers. Kellen was out there doing it, and you got out there. Did you feel the trigger was all you'd hope to be from a trigger tech?
Oh, I'm like a factory guy. I wouldn't change a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it felt great to me. I'm sure you could tell. Like, I just wanted to shoot more.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I wasn't like, okay, one and done. That feels good. Thanks. No, I was like, oh, we have more ammunition. Great. Let's stay here.
Let's keep rolling.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's just impressive. I mean, we get to do spoiled kid stuff, right? But when you walk around the factory floor, you see all the components in one place. They go from raw to kind of put together to kind of coated to finished. And then there's people running down to the range and proving the rifles. It's very, very cool. But then when you're really paying attention, each person in the process is looking for quality control. Like, you're watching people, like we watched some folks put together Vanguards today, and they're cycling actions and they're pulling triggers.
Put
and
dummy rounds in, make sure they
putting
cycle.
dummy rounds in. Yeah. I mean, it's just nice to know that something like this isn't going out the door with the, well, it should work type of idea, right? It's like, it's proven. It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So to me, it's a giant confidence boost. And obviously, I've been a big fan of Weatherby rifles in the past. Have a hard time changing over to new ones because of my...
I thought you were going to cry today, Cal.
You guys caught me off guard a little bit because I was like, whoa. I mean, part of me was like...
We asked Garrett, is this rifle sentimental to Cal? He's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I did not expect that reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. Grab it and run out the door.
If you're listening,
Yeah,
Cal's
sorry.
got a backcountry Mark V. We got him a few years ago, and you've killed a lot of stuff with it.
Yeah.
Put on, how many miles do you think you got on that gun?
Oh, I mean, boats and planes and
Yeah.
mules and
Yeah.
all the things in between and just a lot of shoe leather.
But we want Cal using the new stuff, and so
Yeah.
we'd come out with some new stuff. So we upgraded him, and he almost cried.
It was hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not lying. It was hard. I was like, whoa.
Real hard.
Let's talk about this. You could have eased me into it a little bit more.
We ripped that Band-Aid off pretty hard.
You did.
Hey, speaking of new stuff, by the time this podcast comes out, the shotguns that we were playing with out at the range, that I think you're a pretty big fan of.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
That's true. They're not out today, but when this podcast comes out, if everything lines up just right, we would have launched a side-by-side shotgun, the Orion side-by-side. And we shot some clays on top of the Connex today.
Yes.
We have a deck we've built up there with some clay throwers, and we went through some boxes of shells in the wind, shooting clays, and
You were crushing them with that 20.
yeah, we had a 20 and a
fun.
12 out there. So I don't know, without tooting our horn, literally, what'd you think? Good, bad, and the
It
ugly.
was so cool.
What's your, Garrett? I don't know, like your shotgun level. Is it up there with your rifle?
no,
Like you
no,
don't
not at
roll
all.
up and casually win a shotgun
I
competition.
don't. No one's ever accused me of that. Oh man, my shotgun abilities are like the typical Montana kid that had a clay pigeon thrower in the pasture.
Yep.
Always sending them straight away, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Put the bead on, squeeze the trigger. So no, not like I would not consider myself an advanced wing shooter, but that 12 gauge side by side, man, for me, like it was hard to miss. It was
Right.
just like so much fun, and the recoil side of it was a non-issue. I think it's like that perfect weight, and yeah, man, it just like it felt like the way that like cheek weld and all that for me was just great. It was awesome to sit behind.
Yeah.
Side-by-side people are often not good shotgun shots because they like the nostalgia and they're shooting with something that is relatively ancient
Yeah.
and fancy. And they're just not getting the reps with the thing when they're not in the field. And it's more about how cool of a gun it is.
Yeah.
Even though it was like cutting edge a long, long time ago. So what I like about this is I have several side-by-sides. Love them. I do not hunt with them regularly because of what I just said. So these have the new Weatherby side-by-sides have interchangeable chokes. And they're going to come with a full set of extended chokes,
yeah.
which is incredible.
5. Yeah.
I don't think anybody else is doing that. The fit and finish is beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. But it's got that modern interchangeable choke system. And then it's got your classic English stock.
Yep.
But the thing that I immediately noticed is it doesn't have like the old like Stevens kind of farmer second trigger where it's exactly like the front trigger. So it's a dual trigger shotgun, to be clear,
Yep.
which some people are afraid of. The English stock is this nice long swept back stock, so you can move your entire hand down to the second trigger. That's all it is. You can get very proficient with it very quick. But what Weatherby has done, and I'm super excited about, is the fact that that second trigger is set in such a way that you can catch that thing with like your fingernail on your trigger finger if you're in like a flustered shooting scenario, and it's just going to be there. So I think the learning curve for people that want to pick one of these things up is going to be really steep and fast and effective, and you're not going to be worried about not having enough days at the range.
Yep.
You can take this thing out and kind of learn in the field. especially if you like to walk. But it's set up very well, very well. And I was a little blindsided when I saw this thing the first time last year.
Yeah, you got that sneak preview in Aberdeen.
Yes, exactly. And it was beautiful then. It's improved since then, and it's classy, super functional. I think you guys are just going to blow people away with that shotgun. I mean, it's gorgeous.
I think
it's awesome.
It feels good with that super slender forearm too. You just feel like you're wrapping your hands around the barrel, and it's so slim and it by design, made to be that way that we were heating those barrels up a little bit. And you kind of have to watch when you put your fingers a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
And but we're excited about it. It's fun. I'm glad you guys got a chance to shoot it today. I think everybody shot pretty well with it. The 12 gauge side by side was not a misser. It was
Couldn't mess with it.
Yeah, it was fun.
I love carrying a side by side. Like I resisted for a lot of the reasons that you said for a long time. So I'm like, hey, there's better tools.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But when you are walking a ways on an upland hunt and you break that action open and you just kind of throw it over your shoulder, it's comfy.
Oh yeah.
I just like it.
And it balances better on your shoulder than an over and under does.
Yeah.
It's a well balanced shotgun though. I mean, even though you have twice the barrel out there, it is a nice feeling like walk all day shotgun in my opinion.
So what would you go hunt with it?
And anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different shot sizes out there for a reason.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have the 12 gauge in the duck blind a few days this year for sure.
Really?
Or goose type of situation.
Just to show all those guys with the plastic stock, dipped in camo, long barrels, extended choke tubes, magazines that you can hit something with a wood side by side.
Well, I mean, your first shot has to count too, right? So,
That's right.
just because
it'd be fun.
It's a fun thing, yeah.
That'd be cool.
And as Garrett said, man, you cover a clay pigeon up with both those barrels, it goes to dust very fast.
It's going to go.
Yeah, you get something as big as a goose out there, I think you're going to be feeling pretty proud of yourself.
Yeah, I think if you go into the blind with that side by side, though, we need to get you a pipe.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It would look awesome.
I
He
can
would
see
look awesome.
Cal and his mustache
Yep.
with the pipe like my grandpa used to have in all the pictures.
Corn cob.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
I mean, you build confidence with something. That's what you want to shoot, right? So it's
funny
You
that
guys are going to kill it with
the
that
diversity of the product we're looking at here on the
two
table,
very
and the
different
307 with all the adjustability and newfangled things, and then just old school. And that's what's fun about firearms sometimes is like in a lot of different hobbies or things that we do, right? Is you have the new, and that's really kind of fun and exciting, but to go back and have something nostalgic and blend some of that though with, like you said, maybe more modern chokes and some different things that kind of bring it up to speed. It's fun to have. I think today we got a little bit old and a little bit of new. It was fun.
Yeah, and well, I mean, you're a dog guy. You got to be fair to the dog. You can't run the dog all day long, right? But at the same time, sharp tails, 4 birds, right? You only get 4 birds in a day. And taking a little break, cracking open the side-by-side, instead of shooting 5 shells in a semi-auto is a nice way to extend your day. But you can match those chokes to the distance, the conditions, to the shot shell of your preference that, crushes birds out there. And your dog's going to have a lot more fun, put less miles on that critter, and you're going to have a lot more fun. You have the most effective tool out there, and you can kind of limit yourself to enjoying the day too. Like, I mean, it's...
Well said.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, I wouldn't take someone more seriously with the semi-auto versus the side-by-side.
Oh, to the contrary. I feel like you see someone walking up with a side-by-side, you're kind of like, oh,
Yeah, they know
he's
what's
not
up.
together.
Yeah.
And a pipe.
Not his first
And a
rodeo.
pipe.
And a tobacco
Yeah.
Not his
Oh,
first
yeah.
rodeo.
Just ask for an autograph right there.
Thank you guys for spending some time with us today, working out the details on the MeatEater 307. If anybody wants to find out more info on that rifle, you can do that at weatherby.com. I'm sure at some point we'll get some info posted on MeatEater as well. And the same with the Orion side-by-side. Check out more on weatherby.com.
And you guys are selling the action for the 307.
We sell them as
Right.
builders actions. We sure
Right.
do.
Yeah. So I don't know what you're going to customize yourself beyond what you can start with in this MeatEater Edition rifle, but you can certainly try. You have the option.
That's right.
Or it doesn't mean you couldn't buy this gun as it is, shoot it for a few years, and throw a carbon fiber stock on it later if you want to, or something different, or a chassis.
Yeah.
You know, you can do that later. Get into it for this at a decent price point, and always just throw things on later. That's what's fun about, I think, this platform.
I think Garrett's going to put a chassis. Just guessing.
Man, yeah, it's just like it has to do with your style. You know, I think chassis, a few years down the road, you know, play around with barrels, heavier barrels if you just sit at the range all day and jam.
Yeah.
But right now, as is, this is like an out-of-the-box killer.
You'll be doing that, and Cal would have already killed a dozen big game animals with this,
know,
and,
yeah.
you know, sitting back smoking his pipe with his side-by-side.
That's right.
Yeah.
I do not
and
smoke
snort.
a pipe. That's just
Okay.
Let's
just
just be clear.
yeah.
Let's just be clear.
Would you hold one for a photo with the side-by-side, though?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we could get him one of those like little battery-operated ones where the smoke comes out, but he doesn't have to. You know.
Yeah, as long as one of those side by sides that ends up at the old, Schnee's FFL in Bozeman.
I think that's the 7th time you mentioned that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah,
I
a lot.
I saw him set himself a calendar reminder to remind us to get him his side by side.
Yeah. No.
A Cal reminder.
Very, very on top of it.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, guys, for being here and making the trip down, and looking forward to seeing how people appreciate this rifle. I think our Vanguard MeatEater was very successful. I think the collaboration worked, and so we're going to step up to the plate again, and anxious to hear what all these listeners think about it.
Oh yeah, the real feedback, right, from the greater world is going to be super exciting, because I think it's just a great package. So thanks for letting us chip in.